all of you all making that. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate the support. And of course, we're going to hear from a few of those people this evening, and that's excellent. So last month we had a meeting. It was on the 26th, the last Thursday of the month. It was a good meeting. Good meeting. We heard from a guy running for the Comptroller General, Mike Burkle. And he's really, so far as I know, he's unopposed, and he is really going to shake things up, folks. If you're not familiar with him, you weren't here last month, check it out. There are some amazing things he's going to be able to do, which, I didn't know, Comptroller General, but now I do. So it was good. That was Thursday night. Friday night, went to bed, had a lot of things going around in my head, and couldn't really sleep real well. So I got up about 3 o'clock Saturday morning, and I realized that we had just bombed Iran. So it was like a day later. So there's a lot going on in the world, not least of which that. And there are I always say this, what a time to be alive in the age of Trump. Love him or hate him, things are happening. It's interesting, regardless. And the only thing I want to say about Iran is I read a lot of commentary, pro and con, and the con is, hey, I didn't vote for this, didn't vote for a new war, another one of these endless wars, and I think almost all Trump supporters would agree with that sentiment. The other side of the argument is clearly this is not a new war we are starting. This is a war that started 47 years ago. Just ask the embassy hostages about that. And the Beirut bombing of the Marine barracks and all of the other proxy wars and everything else that Iran's been doing in the region and elsewhere. I mean, they had Hezbollah people down in Venezuela when we went to get Maduro. So the argument is, he's not starting a new war, he's ending an old war. Personally, I find that argument pretty persuasive. Not everybody does, I accept that. But one thing you can say, it's the old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. We live in interesting times, and it certainly is. And closer to home, and Tim, you hit on some of this. I was thinking maybe you were reading my notes here when you did your statement. I'll do that. I'm 67 years old. I know I don't look it. 75. And I was born in Rhode Island. I lived in Florida. I lived in Los Angeles. I lived in Atlanta, outskirts. But 32 years ago, I moved to the great state of South Carolina. I've been here ever since. And so as an observer of politics, I've kind of paid attention to what's going on here in the state. And what I can say is this year, from all my time, and I would argue even before that, this is potentially the most change-oriented election cycle that we've ever had. All of our constitutional offices are up for, they're open, almost. A couple of running for re-election, but your governor, your AG, the Comptroller General, and there are folks running for these offices that are, some are establishment, status quo, but there is at least one candidate in each of these races that is absolutely a change agent. And you already heard Tim refer to the AG race. The establishment is they recognize that there's somebody running for the AG slot. As a Republican, used to be a Democrat, that's the slam, and that's true. But he is an existential threat to the way things are done in Colombia. He already has a track record of prosecuting and gaining convictions of elected legislators, including the Speaker of the House at the time. There's only one person with that kind of background, and they're scared to death that they went to the extent of trying to get this law passed that would have kept him off the ballot. That's all I need to know. So this election cycle, Folks, we are encouraging you, anybody you know, anywhere in the state. Certainly we have some important local elections. We're going to hear about, one of those tonight, and we know there are some others. But anybody you know who's like-minded, conservative, please make sure they get out to the primary on June 9th, right? Because here's what happens. Sure, you've got Trump against Kamala. Forgive me if I mispronounce her name. I don't know. There's 8 different pronunciations. And we get 80+% turnout, right? But for the statewide primaries last year, it's like 14. So it doesn't take a lot of people to move the needle in the primary. We need to get them out. Okay, so if you know anybody, please, I encourage you, get in touch with them. You be the change, right? We all have a network of people. Some more than others, doesn't matter, anybody. So this is an extraordinarily important cycle, in my view. You may feel differently, that's okay. Last thing, I'll introduce our first speaker here. I've said this before, I'll say it again. There's a guy that writes a daily email, every day but Sunday, unless you subscribe, but the free ones are Monday through Saturday. And it is phenomenal. It's the best read on the internet. Dennis knows what I'm talking about. It's called Coffee and COVID. And if you're not getting it, it's free. Just do a little internet search and look it up, and it takes a few minutes to read, and it's just his perspective on things. This is a big picture guy, and he connects the dots, and it's a perspective you can't get from any corporate media or any social media, for that matter. So I strongly encourage you to read that. I think you'll enjoy it. You may not. If you don't enjoy it, cancel the subscription. Like I said, it's free. Okay, thank you for that. All right. This evening, we have a candidate for the Agriculture Commissioner, right? I got that right? Right? Agriculture Commissioner. Cody Simpson is a 5th-generation South Carolina farmer from Clarendon County and a prominent figure who's appointed by the Trump administration as State Executive Director of the USDA Farm Service Agency here in the state in May of last year, overseeing federal farm programs, including disaster assistance, conservation, and loan initiatives. Prior to that role, he served as Chief Executive Assistant and Agriculture Advisor to the Governor, Henry McMaster, since 2018. So he's been around the business, he knows his business, and Cody, if you would come up and introduce yourself to the folks.
You can't take the country out the boy. Well, thank y'all very much for being here. This is really enlightening to hear the great updates that you all are performing around not only York County, but the impact you're having on the state of South Carolina. We're doing the same, working around all 46 counties. I am running for your next Commissioner of Agriculture because we believe in protecting our farms, our families, and our future. Those are the things that are very important to me. I am a 5th-generation farmer. We've been farming on the same very land since 1904. And so I am very fortunate, again, to come from a farming family, was born there. And my family, we were raised there, and some are even buried there. So when we talk about protecting our sacred heritage, we've been there. We're the caretakers, as the good Lord promises us in the Bible for us to be. And I believe that your next Commissioner of Agriculture should be your caretaker of the land, the steward of the land, but also an important part of the Department of Agriculture is our new health inspections, food inspections with our school cafeterias, with our restaurants. And so even when you walked in today, you probably saw that letter grade there of the food inspections. Well, all that now is underneath your Department of Agriculture. So those are things that your members of the General Assembly, who I see here tonight, Jackie, wonderful, wonderful friend, and Mr. Randy, we appreciate their leadership at the General Assembly, but they worked to pass needed reforms. And one of that, especially what the General Assembly did, they split the old mammoth DHEC. COVID, y'all talked about that earlier. I think COVID saw a lot of things and shed a lot lot of light on things that just weren't getting accomplished, unfortunately. Your government wasn't working properly, so Government Master called for the General Assembly. They worked together and they split the agencies, but also one of that functions of the regulatory went over to your Department of Agriculture. So this is the first time that you are able to hold the chief executive, the executive accountable over the health inspections of your restaurants, your cafeterias, your bars and breweries, and even your own mom and pop restaurants. Having an advocate, a small business owner like me, having that understanding of what it's like to make sure that you pay your taxes, which Lord knows they keep going up and up, seems like. But we've got to look at the regulatory piece. How can we eliminate those burdensome regulations? How can we get back to looking out for the actual business owner? Because at the end of the day, South Carolina knows this, and I know y'all are aware of this, but in all the businesses we have in South Carolina, 99.4% of all businesses are small businesses. They need an advocate. They need someone who understands our way of life, but also that we need to get back to the basics. You talk about change agents. Well, I'm your guy. Because when we walk in that door on day one, we are going to return the people back to their South Carolina Department of Agriculture. We've got to get back to the days of the government, which is a functionary. We have to have limited free government. But we should not be feeling like that we work for the government. The government works for us. And that is exactly what our president has done, President Trump. And oh, by the way, your treasurer spoke about this earlier, is that everything that man said on the campaign trail, everything he said has come to be true. Because exactly what he promised us he was going to do, he's doing it. On day one, he was ready. And they still can't keep up with him because he's a machine. He just keeps working and working and working. And I will tell you, one of the things that he and Charlie Kirk, the late Charlie Kirk, which I was a big fan of, still am, Charlie Kirk and the president, they talked about, and it's true today, is that this Chinese-owned foreign land in America. Well, you say, well, that's in America. What does that have to do with South Carolina? And what does that have to do with KKK? Well, I will tell you, in South Carolina, you have roughly around 800 or so acres owned by the Chinese Communist Party right here in South Carolina. And more so, just so y'all are aware, the threats that we have are adversarial. You looking at, I don't have to tell you, but we have it around our military bases, Shaw Air Force Base. How do I know? I live there. We farm there. We farm that same very land around there. And unfortunately, somewhere along the way, some folks dropped the ball and China was able to come in and buy up that land. But you talk about, look at North Carolina, though. North Carolina right across the line, which I feel like night and day under the political control, unfortunately, for the people in North Carolina with their governor from the Democrat Party. But I will tell you, in North Carolina, they have over 49,000 acres that are owned by the members of the Communist Party. Not from the citizens, but from the sworn party members. Those are things that we have to be aware of. The president has talked about that. They brought together 4 agencies and created farm security as a matter of national security. If you're like me, I like to look at reports to understand, because if you don't have a plan, you're not going anywhere. You've got to have a business plan to be successful. I'm going to take that plan and we're going to work with your members of the General Assembly. As I mentioned, our friends here, we're going to make sure that we ban foreign-owned land of China in South Carolina on day one. And I know that's very important, especially for our children and where our food comes from, because people ask, well, what's the importance? Well, it is shown, and you can look at studies and statistics that show that your farmland, we've got to have a steady food supply because, again, our foreign adversaries are buying up our land and they're trying to starve us to death. You don't believe me? Look at your history books. Look at what the Soviet communists did to East Berlin and Germany. I was there not long ago. I saw the photos. I saw what they did to the people, but also saw where Americans came in and they did the Berlin airlift and they were able to drop the food off for those children. They brought freedom and prosperity because they opened it back up. But I will tell you, if you look at any ways of looking at the countries that may be fighting against us, whether it be here, foreign or domestic, But unfortunately, it has been shown that some of this foreign-owned land, the Chinese were able to use some of it to put their technology advances on there. And we've got to make sure that we ban that on day one. The second thing, most important thing, I think, especially as I was coming up here, is overdevelopment. We have problems right now, as you can see, the infrastructure. As much as we are the General Assembly and Governor and all, especially the infrastructure we're in, but we have not been able to keep up with that pace of all of the growth that's taking place in South Carolina. Unfortunately, there's not a statewide plan. There's no plan for how do we control, in a sense, of this overdevelopment. Now, I'm all for private property rights. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for it. But we've got to also use a little bit of common sense, because if we keep developing this farmland, then where are we going to eat? Where are we going to get our food? And so I was working for Government Master, worked with the members of the General Assembly. I think this was back in 2022, actually. The General Assembly passed, thank you to Representative Ligon here, of making sure that we pass the Agriculture Working Lands Fund, which provides funding and relief to our farmers to put their land in conservation easements. Not too far from here in York County is where The Patriot, everybody remembers the Patriot film. I'm a big fan, with the 250th anniversary coming up. And you all know that the American Revolutionary War was fought and won in South Carolina. And so I was able to go over to his farm, a farmer nearby, and he was able to put his land in that conservation easement that it is protected for life. It is protected for life. So we've got to be able to protect our farmland. We've got to protect our heritage and our way of life. That is the most important part. I wish every child had the opportunity to grow up on a family farm. I think that it has taught me a lot of responsibility. And so I want to push for ag education. I want to push for workforce development. I want our children to be very involved in where their food comes from. And also, it didn't just come from a grocery store. Or from, as I was telling a lady, the old joke, what came first, the chicken or the egg? And I was telling her, so they don't even know where the eggs came from. She said, Cody, hold on a second. They don't even know where the chicken came from. They think it came from McDonald's. So I will tell you, we've got to get education back in the classroom. We've got to support the children. I think that we're starting much later than we should. We need to be starting as what we used to call clover buds when I was in 4-H, the little children, 3 and 4 years old, and seeing them and being able to get out and understand exactly where they grow that tomato when they plant that seed. And speaking of that, I saw this when I was 10 years old, but today, y'all are my first. Plant a seed for Cody Simpson. And that is what we're doing. That is the seed packets here for your children to plant a ray of sunshine. Well, that all I could think about was our sunflowers. So make sure that you pick one of those up today. But we want to make sure, again, that children understand where their food comes from. And I know that you all are noticing that. I know Caitlin's done a great job of making sure that we're spreading the awareness of what the MAHA movement has done for not only South Carolina, but for the entire country. Understanding what goes in that food. And to Caitlin's point, we were talking about the red dye. Who would have ever known that if it weren't for Secretary Kennedy working with President Trump and working not against each other? To your point about unity, the president has brought everyone together. And for the first time, and I think in history, you have the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Health working together for the benefit of all Americans. And that is reminding folks what's in their food, the safety that's actually the ingredients. You look at studies from other countries. There's no reason why there are some ingredients that they have substituted to save a buck here and there, but at the expense of who? Us. And more importantly, the children. And we've got to take that and get that under control. But the president needs help. He needs it right here on the ground, similar to you all on the ground where my feet are firmly planted and I'm ready to help the president implement those changes right here in South Carolina, because we need to be doing it in all levels of government. And what better, looking at all of our local folks, we need to be getting back to the basics of working with our local government officials, because y'all know people best. You know your communities, you know the schools. And so when we talk about all of this government consolidations and all these things, and we need to get back and understanding is that we don't work for the government. The government works for us, and we need to make sure that we keep that importance of making sure that the people are important. So our children are very important to me. I want to work with our Department of Public Health. I want to make sure that we have access for your local food, either food hubs or your farmers markets. There needs to be a way that you can Google it up, or you can type in an app and make sure that if you want to get your fresh collards today, then you can go by and see Farmer Tom. Or you can go up the road and get you some good old bell peppers or tomatoes. Because like I've mentioned and what I've told people often, is that the more local that you can go, even for honey, for example. Honey with all these allergies, and if I start coughing, blame the pollen. But with all the allergies going on, it's your honey. That's the most basic. It's right there in your community. It does more good for you for health purposes than any other honey or any other product. Elderberry, I was talking with our secretary earlier, and she's going to give me some elderberry plants actually, but we were talking about the syrup. I mean, again, all of the healthy benefits that goes in. We need to be educating our people on it, but also it's one thing to be educating, but also access. Where can people find it? I think that's the job of your South Carolina Department of Agriculture. We need to do a better job of marketing and creating market access, working with our small farmers, because I will tell you, they feel like they've been forgotten about. And this notion that people are frowned upon because they are raising their own food in their backyard of homesteading, that is wrong, wrong, wrong. And it is time that we wake up and we support our people. And if you want to grow your food in your backyard, then you have every right to do that. But to your point of this big government trying to control what you do on your own land because they want you to keep using their supply of food, then that's the problem. You look at what they're doing and also looking at the fallout that's happening from these folks of trying to control our food supply. Well, again, we've got to take matters in our own hand of making sure that we are able to grow more of what we consume instead of more reliance, because you saw what happened earlier last year, with our egg supply. But thank God that we had a president, a turn of a dime. He worked with Secretary Rollins. We were able to boost that back up. But she didn't just stop there. It's kind of like, common sense. Well, it ain't so common anymore. Well, common sense says if we continue, it may happen again, where Secretary Rollins says, we're not going to do this again. She turned around and then reinvested back in the poultry. She reinvested in helping with the regulatory because they were looking at, the processes of even getting the food. It's kind of like the old saying, you got to get the oats to the goats. Well, we got to make sure that we get the eggs to the school children, and we got to get them to the people. And so that's just a small part of thinking ahead, of making sure that we have a strategic plan in place for your Department of Agriculture, because right now there is no strategic plan. We've got to take care of our children. We've got to get more of our locally grown food in the classroom, in the cafeterias, because again, every dollar that you spend, this is for my local folks that always tell, every dollar that you spend locally, you get 67 cents stays in that local economy. The nutritious value for the children stays there. You can look at those studies as I referenced earlier. And I think it's very important, again, for that child to be able to go out there and pick their own tomato and take it in for mama to make her own spaghetti sauce, or even in my time of growing up, being able to learn how to can those tomatoes. And you were able to get in the winter months, and you were able to open that good old jar and it stays just as fresh. And I think it's so great. The peaches, South Carolina's, people talking about Georgia, the peach state. Well, most people don't realize we actually grow more peaches in the state of Georgia, and actually ours are better and sweeter. So we want to have our peaches year-round, and we want to have them year-round, and we want to make sure that our children have access to it. So implementing those things of thinking about ways that we can bring the canneries back, so people can actually put their own food in their jars and know what ingredients go in there, what additives they're not going to include or what they're going to include. Those are things that we've got to be thinking about. Those are things that we have to, again, for our children coming up, we've got to give a way forward for them. And that is exactly what we want to do at your Department of Agriculture. We want to make sure that you and your families have food. And as I was teaching and helping my young nephew this past Sunday, sometimes you just got to get off that old campaign trail and get back to the real people. And those are you've been there with your whole family, your whole time, and get out there and into nature. And I was helping my nephew. We were throwing the rod and reel, and it just reminded me of the old adage of teach a man to fish, and he'll eat for life. But I was able to teach my nephew, and seeing the excitement that he had reeling in that fish, and understanding again that what we eat and where we come from, and understanding we got to protect those areas, because that is South Carolina. And I just want to make sure that you know that we take care of our children. And this position as your Commissioner of Agriculture, we've got to make sure that we put, and I notice that you've all put here too, as America first and put South Carolina first. As that is very important, that we've got to get back to who we are as a country. That's what the president has done. For far too long, we focus on all these other countries, and we focus on all these other, I don't even want to go into these DEI programs that we had to end at the Department of Agriculture. It was over 90 or so. And they said the programs was going to go to the farmers. Well, in one particular program that ended, 99% was going to go for administrative cost, and 1%, if that, was going to go to the actual farmer. So I want to take that same model and take it to your South Carolina Department of Agriculture, because we've got to make some changes. We've got to look at how can we provide more access to our people, but also I think, and y'all know this too, for investment purposes, you as a private business owner have more responsibility and more wiser to invest your money than the government. And I think that's so important that we've got to think about. So I know that we had some time, maybe some questions, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman. All righty. So I just want to make sure that I open that up. I like to hear from you. You are very important to our success. And again, I just am so happy to be up here with you. I'll get this man. He's been waiting for a little while.
In reference to the CCP's ownership of land in the state, what will your department do to make sure that engineered pathogens have not already been introduced into the food system?
I think that's important, working with the pesticide regulatory arm over at Clemson. That's an area that they have been working on. Also, the Department of Public Health. Those are things that we need to be looking into. But I will tell you, to your point, is that on day one, as I mentioned earlier, we've got to work to stop it, because it's an open door. They can buy up our land at any moment. There's no law in the books that they can do it, that can stop them. So we've got to make sure that we go to those areas. The president has pointed that out on a map. We know exactly where those parcels of land are, and we need to be looking into that. And we need to do a step further, just like Governor Sanders did in Arkansas. We need to take that land back. And that's exactly what we need to do. So to your point, we know where the enemy is, and we got to find them. So we're going to make sure that we look into that. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. Yes, sir.
So would you invite Doge SC in to look at the Department of Agriculture's finances?
Well, I will tell you, they very rarely support folks, but I will tell you they did endorse us, because they know that we are willing to be an open book, to look at and see where we are as an agency. Again, we need to get back to the basics of understanding, if this is not to serve the people, then it needs to go. And the same way, if there are some permitting processes, if there are some regulatory arms that are just really outdated. I've heard from our hospitality industry, for example, that they are still operating, being tested on things of how they prepare their food. They think they are still being tested and being graded on things from the 1990s. They haven't even caught up to how they prepare food now. And look at how your farmers in the room, they're still, the Department of Agriculture, do you know how they're still operating from a marketing order? It hasn't been updated since 1978. So I think it needs a little Doge SC. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate all you're doing, Cody, and your desires to help our state. We're all learning more and more about the chemical Roundup that is being used across our United States, and how detrimental that is to everyone's health. is what can be done about that to get the Roundup stopped from being used in our state? And a follow-up question: what can be done to get these farmers to want to convert over to being more organic with their products?
Good questions there, and I will say that it is on top line of a lot of people. They care about where their food comes from. They're starting to kind of, as the old days, I've got a 1947 Cadillac. Sometimes you just got to check under the hood, and that's exactly what people are doing now with how we're growing our food. We also have to make sure that we have a balance of food production because of the benefits that the herbicides do cause and the pesticides, in the sense of being able to control the pest, and also, again, the cost that increases of doing away with some of those practices. So I will say that the administration is probably one of the most proactive. The EPA is still, I think they're studying, the president has obviously glyphosate with Roundup is kind of what the term is, but that is something that they're still looking at. Like I mentioned earlier, pesticide regulatory arm is not underneath the Department of Agriculture. So I think there's a disconnect with the application of the actual use. Yes, it is, but you do get your certification through Clemson Extension. That's where the pesticide regulatory arm, and that's where you get your permitting for safe practices. But to your point, I'm out there talking to people. I'm the most forward-facing, or would be, as your Commissioner of Agriculture. Well, why are we not doing a better job of working together to educate others about that practice? But also, what are we doing to make sure that we are keeping the bad actors out? I think that's very important, because you don't want that, as you've just stated, you don't want that into the wrong hands. Some of those chemicals that are out there, we've got to make sure that we are keeping the control over that. But also, we've got to look at different practices, just like I worked with President Trump under the Farm Service Agency and working at the Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRCS. I feel like sometimes that in the federal government, it was like alphabet soup. It's like, oh my gosh, what are all these acronyms? People don't understand that. They need to just be told what those programs. One of them was the regenerative agriculture that the president just instituted, and that is to help farmers be able to better use their farming practices with their land, because we noticed, and y'all just saw, the meat packers with the high meat costs for beef. The president is looking into that with the Department of Justice of potential price fixing. But the problem is of why we have that shortage. One of the problems is we just don't have the land. Some people say, well, we'll just put more cows out there. Well, that's not how it works. You're going to get overcrowding. You're going to create diseases. It's going to infect our food supply. And so a part of that, to your point, is what can we work on with the farmer to better educate them on how to use their soil properly? Is that crop, just like we do in other crop rotation, is that cow rotation? How do we look at growing better grains to reproduce back in the soil? How do we provide that? There's some other, again, Native Americans. I'm a heritage right here. We'll look at the practices that they had. We're actually reintroducing some of those practices even today. There's some corn that's actually being reproduced that I know of that they're doing research on of the Native Americans that came from right here in South Carolina. And so we talk about those GMOs and things like that too, genetically modified organisms. Those things are, we need to be looking at more, to your point, more organic. But again, why is it that and most people don't realize this, but I'm all about creating market access, and I want to do something about it, and I don't want to just talk about it. I want to actually get to work. Well, I started looking at the ports down in Charleston, the imports that are coming in for agriculture. We are importing tens of thousands of bushels of organic grain. Well, why are we doing that? Why don't we allow the farmers? We got the farmland. We need to be able to grow that same very crop, organic crop, on our land. And we've got the feed mills in the area that they can ship it to. And we can also be able to provide more money in the pockets of the farmers to retain those farms. But the cost of getting into the organic practices is so sky high that the farmer cannot afford to get in it. You look at it, people can say, well, no, it's like a light switch on and off. Well, in some cases, unfortunately, they're mandating that the farmer has to keep their land lay for 3 years. That means grow nothing on it. Well, how's the farmer supposed to make an income on that same land to keep his farm in operation to become organic? So again, we need to look at some common sense practices. That hasn't even been looked at since the 1990s either. And again, I think we have new technology and new advancements with our science that we can actually look into maybe cutting that down a little bit, and making sure that, again, people, consumers, they want access to those type of products, like you said, more organic. Well, right now in South Carolina, I just spoke about the organic eggs for poultry. Do you know that we don't even grow organic eggs in South Carolina because of the regulatory side of it? And so when people want them, do you know that they come from North Carolina and they have to come down to the processing facility in South Carolina? That is crazy to me. We need to be looking at how can we bring a little bit of common sense in there and balance and work together instead of fighting each other on getting these projects done. There are some really good family-owned companies. Not all of them are like Smithfield Farms, which is Chinese-owned communist. And sometimes we can't just loop everybody together. You got to highlight the ones that are doing really well, and we've got to work with them to make sure that we're getting quality food to our people. But my day one, we need to bring an organic facility right here in the state. We don't have one. So we've got to change that. Another question. Good question. Oh, I'm sorry. Ma'am, I can't keep up with who's in the race and who's not, but I will tell you I've been endorsed by the president, by your governor, and most importantly by the people. We have over 46 counties represented now. 46, we have Farmers in All Farmer Coalition. We also have the Farm to Table Coalition that has been great success of getting our businesses engaged of where their food comes from, because when you get that menu, you want to see, oh, my corn was grown over at Farmer Tom's. We want to make sure that we keep encouraging that. And so that's what we're doing, and we've been pretty successful so far, and that's why the road has led right here to York County. So thank y'all for your time. Appreciate your support. And I saw one of your own, Nayland, who is a great advocate for you. And those are the young men and women we need to be supporting for getting young folks into the party. I started when I was a junior in high school going to my first Republican Party meeting. But as he has started his own Tri-County Young Republican Party, we need to do everything we can to support the leadership that Nayland's providing. And I can commit to you tonight that that's what we'll do when we become your Commissioner of Agriculture. Thank you.
How many of you have ever happened via PR for the state? Personal representative? Show of hands? Anybody? No? Okay. Well, yeah. Well, if you had been through that meat grinder, you would know that probate can be very trying for all involved, and I'm particularly interested to hear tonight your perspectives on that aspect, because it's typically lengthy and not without good reason. I mean, you don't want just anybody coming along and scrounging with the assets of the deceased. So, but there are a lot of things that get involved, and anybody that can make that a little easier on the public, one way or another. Some things can't be avoided. We'll be happy to hear about that. We're going to start with Daniel Harshaw. He's an attorney in York County and specializing in wills, trusts, probate, estate, power of attorney, probate litigation, residential and commercial real estate. He's been a member of Charles Bradford PA since 2011. I have that right?
Been part of Faulkner since 23.
Okay, thank you. Sometimes you can't always trust the internet.
That's right.
Also a member of the McConnell's Town Council.
Former member.
Former member of the Board of Directors, Greater York Chamber of Commerce.
Before they went defunct.
Okay. We won't blame you for that. Anyway, Daniel is standing for the Probate Judge position, and if you would put that on. That's for the video. And that's for the road. Daniel Harshaw, everybody.
All right. Thank y'all very much for having me tonight. I'm glad to be able to be here and share some about why I'm running to be your next probate judge. My wife Jane here with me. We are both residents of McConnell's. Our family has grown up there. She and I grew up in the same church, Olivet Church. We have our sister church represented back there, but part of this community for generations. And then talking about agriculture, 3 of my daughters just participated in the 4-H swine project, just raised pigs. And we are waiting on the call from the meat processor that it's time to pick up our selection of meat. But that's the same land that their grandfathers raised pigs on, their great-grandfather, and before that. So proud heritage of being here in York County for generations. And so talking today about the probate court, and most people when they think of the probate court do think of decedents, people who have passed away, trying to handle administrating those estates, and it definitely does that. It also handles marriage licenses. It handles mental health commitments when someone is having a mental health crisis or addicted. Dealing with those situations. Also, the guardian and conservator. If you have a minor or an adult who cannot manage their finances, a conservator is appointed. Adult guardianships, of course, the family court handles minors and their guardianship actions, but so there's litigation, things that happen, what you think of as happening in a court, attorneys standing up, presenting arguments before a judge, but also just administrative things, filing forms, filing those things so that you can take care of loved ones' properties or report what their assets are if they aren't competent, and those kind of things. And so a big part of that is access and getting in. And so right now, our probate court is appointment only. And it has not always been that way, but I want to open the probate court back up where there is room for walk-in services. When people come in, they've lost a loved one. A spouse needs to be seen very quickly. And I have just recently dealt with a widow who was not on the husband's bank account, and he had the money. And she needed to make a mortgage payment and couldn't be seen for several weeks. She needed to be able to wait to be seen. Appointments are important, though. There are people who have to take time off of work, who are traveling in and need to know that they'll be seen at a certain time. Both of those things are very important. I want to be sure that that's the case. And just like the lady that I talked with that needed to be seen and couldn't be seen quickly, just talked with a man who went in to be seen, didn't realize that he needed an appointment. When he was in, he was told, well, you need an appointment to be seen. Okay, well, let's schedule an appointment. Oh, I'm sorry, you need to call in to schedule an appointment. And so I certainly don't want that. If someone needs an appointment, certainly be able to call in. But if someone can wait to be seen, and having staff dedicated to both those services. Want to be sure the court is open. Want our records to be open and accessible to the extent that they are public records. There are protected things. There's health information. That is not necessarily public record, but the public record for estate administration should be easy to get to. Currently, you have to go into the county offices and into the computer room and a register of deeds to get access to those. And so online records, and I understand that that's something that's in the works, but it's got to happen, and it has to happen sooner rather than later. And they have to be available immediately. People need to know what's happening in loved ones' estates. They need to know if someone has opened that estate, if they filed that deed, if they've distributed those assets. Is the estate now closed? And so being sure that the court is open, the records are available, and people can see what's happening. The court needs to be efficient. When it's holding hearings, it needs to be very judicious with its time. We need to be sure that we don't have unnecessary hearings. There are times when the law and the facts do not require hearings. And in particular, there are times when there are guardianships for adults who were special needs children, and parents are stepping in to administer their children who are now adults, and they are not just automatically over them. Well, if the guardian ad litem and other parties in the action who are taking care of and looking out for that protected person don't believe a hearing is necessary, the law doesn't require it to be necessary. There are things that we have to do to be sure that people's rights are protected, but if everyone's in agreement with what needs to happen, we don't need to use court time to do what everyone agrees should happen. But also alternative dispute resolution. When people are fighting over matters or have disputes or have matters that they feel like need to be in court and they have attorneys trying to work things out, sending people to mediate, to work together to come up with a resolution, to decide for themselves the best way to resolve those things. The probate court has the ability to order people to engage in mediation. Not every case in the probate court is right for that. Some litigation, it just doesn't work. But when it is, we should be encouraging or even ordering people to go solve their own problems outside of court and be sure that they are taking care of their problems without unnecessary government interference. Empowering. We want families to be able to agree. Sometimes people understand exactly what needs to happen, and being sure that the court is there to help those things happen. And maybe they are varying from what exactly the statute is going to lay out. Are they going to do it by agreement in a way that is allowed to be done? Well, being sure that our families are being served and they are getting help in those difficult times, and that we aren't placing additional burdens on them as they're going through that process. It's enough stress losing a loved one. We don't need other things adding to that difficulty. So we want to be sure that all of those burdens are being lifted and taken away. And so I want to work to be sure that is the case. And I do want to leave plenty of time for questions and talk about things that are happening in the probate court. Do y'all have any questions? Yes.
Thank you. I'm interested in hearing briefly just a little bit more about the walk-in services, as you mentioned. Would that entail the county having to add additional positions to accommodate lone people who walk in?
So I believe, and before, in previous years, there has been walk-in service, and I believe it can be done with existing staff. I think it's a matter of scheduling and being sure that there is open time and being sure that appointments are being scheduled efficient, people are being seen quickly. There is a good bit of staff there in the probate court to see people already. There are also some alternative ways that you might be able to serve people by setting up video appointments. If, okay, I want to schedule an appointment, don't want to come in, and scheduling those kind of things to speed up that process and get people seen more quickly. All right. Yes, ma'am.
How long is the term for probate?
The probate judge serves for 4 years. Okay, yes, sir.
How long has the current probate judge been there?
Our current judge has been there for 16 years, and she is retiring after serving there. And so she's been there for quite a while, Carolyn Woodruff. All right. All right. Thank you all very much.
Judge Miller previously served as staff attorney for the Mississippi First Chancery District from 2014 to 2017, and an associate judge for Lancaster County Probate Court from 2012 to 2014. She's been serving as the secretary treasurer of the South Carolina Association of Probate Judges since 22, and is a member of both the SEAPJ Mental Health Committee and Legislative Committee. She's on the NAMI Piedmont Tri-County Mental Health Task Force Say that 3 times fast. No, right? Yeah. Judge Miller's married to Mark and is active in their church. When out of court, Judge Miller is most likely to be found with some assortment of their 7 active children attending an extracurricular community activity or a curricular activity at Oak Ridge Middle School or Bethel Elementary. So, Anna Miller.
Okay, so I want to thank this group for letting us come. It's so exciting to get to be able to speak about the probate court, and I'm so appreciative of the opportunity to be here. So you may wonder, why am I new to the group? Why have I not been attending in years past? And since I am a judge, I have to cite statutes for you. It's been prohibited. The canons of the Code of Laws have prohibited me from being involved in political organizations and from participating except as a voter in the political process. However, things have changed now that I'm an announced candidate, and the code does now allow me to join you, and I'm so thankful to be here. So I wanted to talk for just a minute about you before we get to me. What do I know about this group? Well, one thing I know about this group, and I think it's already been evident from everyone who's spoken before me and from our comments at the beginning, is that this is an outspoken group. When you are united, which is part of the platform here, you point in one direction and with a loud voice. Another thing that I know about this group is that you care deeply about the judiciary. Yes. And that's not only evident because you have 2 candidates for judge speaking today, but that's been evident in your platform. And one of the things I know about what is desired by our community is you want an accountable judge that knows the role of the judiciary and isn't trying to be an activist stepping into some other role of our government, the legislative role or the executive role. And you have had some criticisms of how our judges are elected. Well, good news for you. The probate judge is the only publicly elected judgeship, and so you get to make a decision on that. The people will speak, and so whoever is elected will be accountable to you. And that's a good thing, as well as the higher courts and, of course, the law. Another thing I know about this group is that you're committed to conservative values. You care about how our taxpayer dollars are spent, and you care about family values. So what should you know about me? This is a rare photo. It has all of my children in it. None of them ran off, and all of us have our eyes open. You'll see all 7 children in that photo. We've got 5 boys, 2 girls. And to be here tonight, that does mean that we are missing 2 baseball games. We'll find out what the outcomes of those are at the Clover Rec Centers. You see in that photo Mark. He's present with me today. He is a pastor at the Clover ARP Church. He got called there in 2017 and has been responsible not only for my presence here today, my presence at the probate court, but also for me being in this part of South Carolina. I grew up in Lexington County, in Irmo and in West Columbia, and my family is still largely there. A couple of them have spread out. We've got one in Pumpkin Town, the big metropolis of Pumpkin Town. And I was going to stay there. I was in private practice, having an okay life, and then I met the love of my life. And he was a pastor in Lancaster County at that time, so I moved up there with him, and I was given the honor of serving as a probate judge in Lancaster County. Now, what I did in Lancaster County is very different from what I'm doing here in York County. In Lancaster County, the elected judge there gave me the responsibility to hear contested estate proceedings. That's what she wanted me to do for her. And that was a joy. I really enjoy that area of the law. But when Mark got called to the state of Mississippi, obviously I moved there with him, with our family, our ever-growing family. And I took the bar in Mississippi, and I served for the First Chancery Court District there, and I wrote opinions for 4 judges. They organize themselves a little different from us. A lot of those opinions were in the state area. We had some really interesting cases that came up there, and I enjoy getting into the depths of the law in those. But I won't say that what God calls a man to do is ever a mistake. It wasn't a mistake for Mark to be called to the church in Mississippi. It's a dear congregation. However, the man, and I will call you out right now, he was wearing a tie identical to what he's wearing today every Sunday from the pulpit. That's a South Carolina flag tie. And eventually he got the call back to our community, where the sweet spot for him seems to be serving as close as he can to the North Carolina line, but on the correct side of it. So we have been here ever since, and I had the honor to be appointed as an associate judge under Carolyn Woodruff. My department of the court is the guardianship, conservatorship, and mental health department of the court, where I have heard over 2,000 and counting mental health cases of every variety, and where I've heard guardianship matters, conservatorship matters, minor conservatorship matters, and minor settlements as well, and some trust things here and there. All right, we already went through my bio. All right, so I don't want to belabor what has already been described. You've heard what the areas of jurisdiction of the probate court are. And I just want to point out that one of the things that does make the probate court special and unavoidable is the fact that it is unavoidable. Every single member of this community at some point will interact with the probate court, hopefully in a happy way. Hopefully the marriage licenses and getting a family started. But, and my opponent has mentioned this, a lot of times in very difficult moments, when tragedy has struck a family, when there's grief, when you're concerned about the health of a family member who is declining, when somebody is in a mental health emergency, when they're in the throes of addiction. All of these times are times when the probate court is there to serve, and to serve as a court. I put a little asterisk over the tuberculosis, because I was going to say I've heard things across our jurisdiction. I've never heard a tuberculosis case, and God willing, we won't have another one in the state ever. We'll see. All right, this is the most recent photo of the probate court staff. We do need to get that updated, but there have been some changes since this photo was taken. At the time this photo was taken, I was expecting our baby Jimmy, who is the second to youngest, not the youngest. At the time that this was taken, we were in the historic courthouse. That's that beautiful background you see there. Unfortunately, and Angie knows about this, she can tell you all about this, the HVAC system in that courthouse has completely died. And the clerk of court staff has very graciously made space for us at Moss Justice Center until that is paid for, which I think you can ask Debbie Cloninger about. May take more than one budget cycle to get completed. Now, this is the most beautiful courthouse probably in the state, definitely in the county, and had sufficient room for us to be in more than one courtroom. At the same time, we have 2 associate judges, an elected judge. Generally would have hearings more than one day, and sufficient room for all of our clerks to meet with the whole family in their own office. Since this has been taken, we have had a few changes in addition to my baby. Some of the security staff has moved around as the security needs have differed. One has tragically passed, and we have added 1 clerk in the time since this was taken about 4 years ago. Both babies, incidentally, that were born were mine. All right. So my goals for the probate court. The most important thing is to follow the law. The role of a judge is not to make the law. It's not to impose one's own agenda on a family coming before you. It's not to show preferences to one group or another, but to follow the laws we're given. Now, it's good to speak about the law so that the public is aware of what it is. and to keep an informed electorate, to speak with our legislators about how the law is impacting. But it's not the judge's responsibility, given by God, given by our people, to write the law. We need to follow it wherever it leads. And sadly, sometimes in these cases, I mean, if it's a contested matter, you're going to have somebody who walks out disappointed. You can't both win every case. Second thing is, I want us to provide equal and friendly service for all families. Now, our probate court has a reputation as the best one in the state. That said, it isn't perfect. There are ways that we can improve, but one thing that has occurred in our family's life, in our community's little niche in Clover, a family who we care about deeply lost a family member unexpectedly on Sunday. Earlier today, he didn't have to change his suit. Mark preached a funeral for this man. Now, we haven't had this happen yet, but when his widow calls the court, I don't expect her to need to call and ask for me, particularly. I expect her to be able to speak to any member of the staff, but most especially our scheduler who runs the calendar, and to be offered the next available slot, to be told, and this is why we have phone calls, to be told what to bring with her, to have a follow-up email with a list of all the things to have, and to be given the next available slot. The reason why Judge Woodruff, and this was her decision on the estate department side, implemented a policy where you call and you get an appointment is so that the 5 staff members who are in an area of the courthouse who can meet with the public under the rules of the courthouse and with the security staff, so that they can know when the next person's coming in, have the right paperwork available, and make sure that that person is going to be able to be served in the time slot that they need. So they don't have to come back and forth, and so that if you have somebody show up 30 minutes before someone has been waiting a week or 2 weeks or whatever period of time, that other person isn't pushed. And that is to keep things fair and friendly for everybody, so you have the same rules for everyone involved. And of course, in addition to coming to the court and sitting down with a human who's been trained in our law and has years of experience and has been trained in how to have a compassionate manner. Some of the women who serve as clerks there have been widowed themselves or have experienced losses of other kinds. All of them care deeply about our community. There are other ways that you can file things with the court. You can complete the paperwork yourself and just drop it off. You can use an attorney to assist you. There are other ways you can do that, but we want to keep an open door to people being able to do that and to have that service, and to not have it as a thing where you have to come back because you forgot one document. You are ready to have it completed. Now, Scott, when you were introducing the questions about the court, why does this take so long? Some of those are things that again, a judge can't fix, because there is a creditor's claim period in the probate courts in South Carolina. We're probably the 4th longest period in the country, depending on how you count. 8 months creditor claim period, or a year from the time someone passes, is a long time for these things to be open. But again, I'm committed to being a judge who follows the law. If I'm in the legislature, maybe I'll change that, but I'm running to be a judge, and I'm going to follow the laws that are given to us by the legislature. So that's not going to be something that's going to change under my watch, because I don't think it's given to me to do that. Other priorities: accountability. I do believe that any judge is accountable. Elected judge has the benefit of being accountable to you. You can vote them out of office every 4 years. They're also accountable to the higher courts. You can be appealed to the Circuit Court, Court of Appeals, South Carolina Supreme Court, or higher up. Also accountable to the executive agencies. We get to use the dollars that the legislature and most particularly the county council choose to give us. In the years I've been serving at county council, serving at the probate court, the county council has given Judge Woodruff one additional clerk, and we're very, very thankful for her. And she's been cross-trained so she could do more than one thing. And I'm hoping that as we get near to somebody retiring, that we'll be able to clear out her caseload and have this new person in one of those offices where the public can get. And if county council would be willing to give us 2 more clerks, which is something Judge Woodruff has asked for in every budget cycle, I think that would make it much easier for wait times to be a little bit shorter. But you have to understand that the oldest clerks serving in this court have a caseload of over 500 cases, that they are currently serving active cases. And Judge Justice has been actively working to reduce the number of cases that are still open. And if I'm elected, I intend to put a hand in that. I think one thing that would accountable to God, you take an oath. I think that one thing that would set me apart as your elected judge is I am serving on multiple mental health committees. I'm working with the probate judges to draft legislation, which if the legislature likes it, that could modify our mental health code for the first time since the end of the 1970s. Many things have changed in our community and in how mental health care is provided since that time. There's some holes, there's some inequalities. For example, if you have not complied with your mental health order, the Catawba Mental Health Care Center will send in an affidavit of noncompliance to the court, and you'll be brought into court to account for whether or not you are receiving your injections or a danger to the community or not. But if you have complied with it, if you've been perfect, then you need to have a reciprocal ability to get out from under that order and get your gun rights back, because these are important rights. Another thing is I have worked with all of our other agencies, and I think I'm in the best position to be able to grow, to get online filing in addition to our records online. I share that goal with Daniel, and to be able to accomplish these things. So my experience, I've heard over 2,000 mental health cases, heard of cases across our jurisdiction, and I think I'm in the best position to be able to implement the goals that I've listed here. So if you have questions for me, I love questions. Please email me, talk to me afterwards, call me. I love to be asked questions. And if you would like a sign, we've got some out there. If you'd like to join us in our campaign, we'd love to have you on board. Do we have time for questions? I went a little long. No. All right, you'll have to get me privately out there. Oh, you want this back?
All right, thank you very much, both of you. Good luck. And we always have ground game. And Caitlin, our first vice chair. Yes. Woo!
All right, Naylin is going to say a few words before I do my spiel. Okay, hold that and hold that.
Okay.
Do too.
Can y'all hear me? Okay. Just wanted to bring it to y'all's attention that this Tuesday, 31st from at 6:30 at the 19th, the warehouses in Rock Hill, we're having our Young Republicans kickoff event, which is it was a long time coming, but we're finally launching, and we're going to have Congressman Norman, he's going to speak. We're going to have State Senator Wes Clymer is going to speak. So what I don't want y'all to think is that this is just a young person's event. It's going to be filled with a lot. It's going to be a lot of people who care about their children, their grandkids, and it's important that y'all show up because this is the future of our country. It's one thing to love your country now and want to make it a better place now, but it's another thing to love it for the future and trying to make it somewhere where your kids, your grandkids, and future generations will be proud of. So look forward to seeing y'all there. And if y'all have any questions, just see me after. Thank you. What's the date? The 31st, Tuesday. Yep. And if y'all need, we have a website, we have a flyer. If y'all need that address and all that information, just see me after.
Thank you. I did recently post their flyer on the YCGOP Facebook page, so if you guys are interested in seeing all the details, you can go, but I really encourage you guys to go. I'm going to be out of town. I would definitely be there otherwise. Okay, ground game. So I think there are 73 days until the primary. It's right around the corner. And what I wanted to talk to you guys about is ground game is all about actually doing the work and being active and showing up. And I had a funny moment yesterday. My son, I have a 13-year-old, and he plays soccer. He's very good, and I'm not just saying that because I'm his mom, but he is. And it was the Pleasant Knoll Middle School versus the Indian Land Middle School, and we're in the Indian Land Stadium. And the Indian Land Stadium is great for rowdy adults because one fan sits on one side of the field and the other fans sit on the other side of the field, so you're not close to each other. And let me tell you something, guys. Those middle school parents are really intense. Like, I had to disassociate and look at my phone a few times because I was getting like secondhand embarrassment in a good way. Mostly it was the other team, right? They were screaming at the kids on the field. You know, they were screaming like, be aggressive and press and like, get up there, Johnny. And I'm like, oh God, you know, it's like triggering all my childhood sports trauma. But it was exciting to watch. And the parents were like that before the game even really got going, okay? And my thought, and what I'm driving to with this analogy, is all the advice that the parents could scream from the stands meant literally nothing, right? Because what the game was really about was about who was playing on the field. Politics can be like the middle school stadiums. We can all scream advice from our side, but if we don't actually do the work, it's not going to matter. And in fact, your kid could get a yellow card from the referee, right, for your own behavior. So, the primaries are around the corner. This is the time to get involved. I had all of our Republican candidates who were interested in bringing signs. I had them bring signs. And this is the challenge for you guys. And this is something else I've talked about before too. For example, I am not in Debbie Cloninger's district. Tom Audette is my councilman, right? But Debbie is up for election, and I love Debbie, and she's doing a killer job as the county councilwoman. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take a Debbie sign, right? If I put it in my front yard, it does not matter, right? Because my neighbors can't vote for Debbie either. But what I can do is I can keep it in my car until 30 days before the election. And when I'm driving around Debbie's district in May, I can see a corner where maybe her opponent has a sign and there's no Debbie sign. And I can pull over and I can put a sign in the ground, right? Okay. So my challenge to you guys today is to look at all those signs that we have out there. And we have lots of signs. We have Wes Clymer, we have Mark Lynch, we have Paul Dans, we have Jackie signs, we have Cody Simpson signs, we have Debbie signs, we have Anna Miller signs, we have Elizabeth N signs. So I want you guys to take signs. Take signs even if they're not in your district. If they are in your district, you should definitely take a sign. Now, in my HOA only lets me put out 3 signs. Can you believe it? 3 signs. I like more than 3 people. But again, I want you to take signs and I want you to put them in the community, okay? I cannot put all those signs in my front yard. I will get a fine. And let me tell you, actually, one election cycle, I took the fine because I wanted to put out all the signs. I did. It was a $50 fine. It was worth it. So I took the fine. I had 3 Jackie signs, okay? 3 Jackie signs in my own. Okay. My other thought for you is going back to my sports analogy, right? Back to my sports analogy. Those kids are the ones who have to do the work and score the goals, right? But who wakes those kids up for practice? on Saturdays? I do, right? Who gives them their supplements and their creatine powder? Their dad does, right? Who is paying for all their training and supporting them? We are, right? And in the same way, we are not the candidates. And we have so many great candidates in this room. And I'm going to ask you guys to stand up in just a second. But we are not the candidates. And they are the ones who have to do the most work, right? If you have ever helped a campaign, you know people work so hard for you to get elected. They work so hard. They sacrifice time with their family. They sacrifice income from their job very often. They put in their own money. They work very, very hard. And what they need is the York County GOP to help them play the game better. So there are a couple ways that you can do this. You can knock on doors. You can do door hangers. It's going to be so nice out soon. It'll be great walking weather, right? You can do phone calls for people. One of the easiest things that you can do, and okay, I bet when I ask this question, everybody in this room is going to raise their hand. On election day, do you get a text message from a friend that says, who are you voting for? I will vote for whoever you are voting for because I know you know. Do you get that text? Yes, right? One of the things that I do is I actually have in my notes app on my phone is I keep a running list of people who I know would trust me to tell them who to vote for. It's stuff like my hairdresser, right? The lady who owns the chocolate shop in my office building, right? The people who are not super plugged in politically, but they know that I know. And whenever there's an election, I open that notes app and I go through my phone and I text them all. And I said, do you know that there's a primary today? And half of them are like, no, I didn't know. But who are you voting for? I'll vote for them too, right? So start making your list of who you're going to contact on primary day so that you can tell them to go vote because they trust you. You guys are the authority on who the real conservatives are. People trust you, but you also have to proactively tell them, right? You have to tell them to go vote. That is our job as the parents in the bleachers, is to shout advice and to do the work for the kids. Okay, if you are a candidate or you're here on behalf of a candidate, can you stand up? Okay, so we got Daniel, we have Anna, we have she's representing Elizabeth Enns. Elizabeth could not be here, she's at CPAC, which is very exciting. We have Randy, we have Jackie, we have Debbie, we have Austin from Mark Lynch's campaign, and I wanted to point them out to you guys so that you could go up to them and ask them if they need help. I will tell you one thing, you guys can all sit. I'll tell you one thing about the House races. So I've been refreshing, you can see who's filed, right? Filing is through Monday. So every day I log in and I refresh, like who's filed, right? Randy, he does not have an opponent as of right now. So he's gonna have a great election, right? Jackie has an opponent. She has a Democrat who has filed. I will tell you that the York County Democrats have put up a Democrat challenger to every single York County House member this cycle. So the primary, the only House race where there is a primary challenger to a Republican, as of right now, is Elizabeth Enns and David Martin. So there's going to be a lot to focus on in the primary cycle. As Scott always tells you guys, the primary is so important this time. There's potentially state-changing things happening, right, throughout the state. But we also have to keep our eye on November. Because let me tell you, we do not want to give an inch to the York County Democrats. They are telling people York County is purple. That's what they say in the Facebook posts. York County is purple. Is York County purple? No. What color is York County? Red. That's right. Okay, and we're going to keep it that way. So remember, primary matters, but we also have to work all the way through the finish line, right? Just like I tell my son, the game's not over until the game is over, right? Early voting is going to be very crucial. Early voting is very crucial. When does early voting start for the primary? May 26th, I think. The day after Memorial Day is early voting. But remember,
like your friends, if you know they're going on vacation.
Yes.
Like my next door neighbors are going to be gone.
You want to say it?
Okay. My next door neighbors are going to be gone. So I'm sitting down with them so that they get their early voting ballots. and get their vote in. 'Cause
Yes.
there's 7 of them.
Oh, nice. Look at you. Yes, yes.
I have a soon-to-be 18-year-old. So my youngest will be 18 in November for the election, but he won't be 18 during the primary. But in our state, he can register to vote, and he has, and he can vote in the primary because he will be 18 for the general election. So if you have a teenager who is not going to be 18 necessarily in the primary, but will be 18 and registered to vote in November, they can vote in the primary. So please get them registered and have them tell their friends to register, because every single vote will count.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I want to, do you guys know what happened with the TDK special election with Jim Foltz? He spoke in January, I think. He had a very crucial race for this town, and he won by 11 votes. 11 votes, okay? Every single vote that you guys whip up for the primary election, it matters. Because there are people like you all over the state who are rallying for Mark, or they're rallying for Paul to get Lindsey Graham out, right? And there's people locally fighting for every single inch. And remember, you don't have to be in that district to help that person. We have to help the good people no matter where we live in York County. Okay, so thank you guys so much. Please talk to your candidates. And listen, I will be so mad if there's signs left. I don't want to take any signs home, guys. I got a bad back. It's bothering me. I don't want to carry any of those signs. So please take all the signs and have a good night.